The way I like to teach a retreat is I like to give some ideas on these sessions at 8:30 and 2 o'clock, is it? Our afternoon session. And just put out some ideas for 10 or 15 minutes and then do a guided meditation afterwards. So you can work with those ideas and then just leave it to you for the rest of the session. And all of you have lots of experience. So maybe this is just something to add to your experience. But really it's up to you to build up your own confidence and work with what works for you. I like to emphasize language. Okay, so rather than use the word sankara, so we use in Thai sankan, I like to use just simply objects in awareness. So by objects, I don't just mean a microphone or a clock. I mean emotions, thoughts, memories, bodily feelings, coolness on the body. All of that are objects in awareness. And that's one thing I stress a lot. And so this morning, just the meditation we did, I said, listen to sound and then feel your heart chakra. Listen to sound, go back and forth. And then I said, notice that, or perceive sound as in awareness. And then perceive body as in awareness. And that's very important for me because like I can look at you and I can say, I'm here and you're there. And that's true. I can see that the door is over there. And that for me to get out of the room, I have to walk from here to there. And that's true. Subject, object. But there's another way I can perceive this situation, which is more subtle, I would say. And it's equally true, I think. And that I could say that this experience of sound and space and color, distance, all of that is in awareness. That's not a common perception you use, but you can perceive it that way. So that's, if I do that, I said that this is in awareness, then I begin to perceive awareness as consciousness and space. And those are the things I like to emphasize, consciousness and space. So this situation is in awareness or in consciousness. And then I ask a question, is consciousness have any boundaries? If I ask you, does awareness have an edge? Can you see that awareness is kind of here? Or is it over there? And when you play around with these perceptions, you see with that awareness or consciousness or presence, say. That's another way to talk about consciousness. What do we know about right now? For sure we know presence. That you can't deny, whether you feel good, bad, or indifferent. So presence is something, but it is so utterly ordinary that we don't think anything about it. And yet it's the most important thing. Without presence, without consciousness, without awareness, you wouldn't have anything else. And so I feel that our attention is usually, through necessity, preoccupied with objects. You know, when I'm eating the bread, I'm preoccupied with the eating, action of eating. If I'm having a bath, if I'm cold, I put on a blanket or whatever. So much of our time has to be preoccupied with objects. It's just the nature of life. But the thing about objects is they're not reliable. Emotions are not reliable. Temperature is not reliable. People are not reliable. Not through any purposeful thing, it's just the way it is. So we talk about anicca or meine. So meine means it's not reliable. So what is reliable? You know, what's really, really reliable? Because I think this is what the Buddha's one of the ways that we can consider the Buddha's realization of freedom. He found something reliable, right? In a profound way, not just in a shallow way. So then you ask yourself, so what's really reliable? And through a process of elimination, you know it's not reliable. So in Pali, we have the 5 khandhas, khandha, or sankaras, those kinds of things. So I like to simplify all that language and just to say that objects in awareness are not reliable because they depend on other things, which doesn't mean I dismiss the objective world. I still have to eat and take care of this body and fulfill my responsibilities. So that part I do. I live by a Vinaya, I'm a monk, and da-da-da-da-da. But that doesn't liberate me, right? Being a good monk is not liberation. It's just being a good monk. And it's better than being a bad monk. It has certain advantages and it gives me a certain amount of joy, but it's not really liberating. So living a good life and being a good human being is a foundation. You need that. If you don't have that, you're done. You know, people who live corrupt lives they're just preoccupied with corruption. So they have no freedom. So here we establish a lifestyle of goodness, just together, the way we live our lives. And then we have the kind of freedom to kind of see, well, what is there something that is unchanging? And so my suggestion this morning was, well, go between the two. Listen to sound, and then feel your body, sound, body, in awareness. So is there something that didn't change? And wasn't it just presence? Did that change? Does awareness change? Because awareness has no quality. You can't say that awareness is pink, right? Awareness knows pink. You can't say that awareness is salty. It knows salty. You can't say that awareness is male. You can't say that awareness is monastic. You can't say that awareness is Thai. You can't, etc., right? Awareness just is. And that suchness it's so close to us that, well, it can't be that easy. And so the meditations I like to do are a combination of both grounding yourself with objects, objective meditation, but also then letting go of the object and contemplating the space of awareness, being that space of awareness. So that's where I'm kind of coming from. Language-wise, I don't know how you use the words like sama samadhi. The way it gets translated in English is right concentration. I don't really like that translation because in my own mindset, in my own use of language, concentration for me is something very much about the object. It's just the way I use language. I don't know how you use it. But if I'm doing woodwork with a very fast rotating blade, like a bench saw or something like that, and I'm putting some wood through that saw, I'm concentrating because I don't want to lose my thumbs, and it's dangerous, right? So for me, concentration tends to be an idea of really holding the object very, very strongly, and that has its place. But if I'm always holding an object very, very closely, how can I realize the object less? How can I realize something which is not a sankara if my attention is always on sankharas? And I think that's the fallacy of always concentrating. Now, not to dismiss concentration in this, the way I'm using the language. Again, different teachers will use this language differently. It's just the way my mind works. So I can certainly focus on something to ground myself. But if I'm always focused on an object, am I not preoccupied with sankharas all the time? How can I realize that which is what we call asankata? So sankata is something which is compounded and made up. It's born and dies. Asankata, the negation. Asankata is that which is not born, not compounded, not made up, and hence the deathless, uncreated, unoriginated, unformed. This is the language we have in the Pali. Let's call it peace. Okay, just for because some of the Pali words, unconditioned, amata dhamma, lokuttara dhamma, they can be confusing, right? Because they're not common words. They're powerful words for contemplation. But if we would just say peace, which is not dependent, maybe we just said that seems like an interesting thing to work towards, or whatever we might say. So the thing about objects is that is the realm of desire. I'm hungry. I want an object called food. I'm thirsty. I want an object called water. I'm cold, I want an object called warmth. I'm frightened, I want an object called safety. So that's the realm of desire. That's where desire works. And desire is also about time. I feel cold now, so I'm going to go to my room and I'm going to get myself a sweater, and then I will feel warm. So desire is in time. Nothing wrong with that. I've got a toothache. I want to get rid of the toothache. I go to the dentist. I get an appointment. It takes time. And the desire is a good desire. You know, if I didn't have a desire to get rid of the toothache, I'd have no teeth. Not a good idea. So there's nothing wrong with desire. But the realm of desire is the realm of time. Right? And the realm of time is always, to some extent, you can get some of your desires, but lots of your desires you can't fulfill because it's the nature of desire. Unfortunately, the world was not made to fulfill your desires. I wish it was. Maybe, you know, but it's not that way. It's not made that way. So desire is appropriate where there are needs. We have needs, right? I need food. I need shelter. I need safety. If you think about a child, say, a child needs love. It needs care. You can't just leave a child on a piece of concrete and say, grow up. And it needs food and shelter. So there are needs. And I think that the realm of desire is the realm of needs. So for monks, we say the four requisites. But you need more than four requisites. You need love too, because we're human beings. You need emotional warmth. And we get that from our teachers and our brothers and sisters. But the thing about desire, it's not necessarily just about need. It can also be about want. So again, if you think about a child, the child whose needs are not fulfilled is going to be a mess, right? If they're not loved by their parents or cared for, the child's going to be in great difficulty. But on the other hand, think about the child and give the child anything the child wants. Spoil the child rotten, and no one will want to live with that child, right? Because they'll be a maladapted human being. They won't be able to adapt to adversity or whatever, so they're spoiled. So you can see how desire itself is a necessary part of a need structure that we have as human beings. But if desire is not understood and life is just about fulfilling our desires in some kind of a egotistical or sensual way, life is a disaster. And that's very sad to see people who have kind of lived lives of spoiled indulgence and then cannot adapt as human beings because no one wants to love them. It's very difficult to love someone who's very conceited, and so they're doubly lonely. So the Buddhist teaching around desire is really to understand desire. It's more like an education. And then the freedom of I think that the Buddha realizes for us and offers us that opportunity is something which is not about time, because it's not about desire. It's not about the future. It's not about a place you get to, like Nibbana is in Phuket or Florida, you know, Nibbana as a place, or Nibbana as a spa, let's say. We have lots of spas in Canada now called Nirvana, right? Oh, maybe. So it can't be a place, or it can't be in time. And that's what we mean by akalika dhamma. It's not a matter of time. We chant that so much in Buddhist tradition, but what does that actually mean? Well, again, akalika dhamma could mean, well, the dhamma is always relevant all the time. It's relevant 2,000 years ago. It's relevant now. You could put it in that kind of cultural format. But I think it has a much more deep meaning that akalika dhamma means that realization of truth has to be now. It can't be tomorrow. Because if it's about tomorrow, it's about time, and time is about birth and death. And the akalika dhamma is what is it that is not born and does not die? What is it does not change? And then what do you have? What's the closest approximation to that? What has to be what? Presence. It's the only thing you have, because everything else is objective. Emotions, right? So without dismissing a wholesome emotional life, or a wholesome professional life, or a wholesome family life, without dismissing any of that. So that has its place as a good human being. But there's also this dimension of realization of deep peace, of a deep possibility that requires something which is not bound by desire. So if I want, like, and this is the kind of the paradox of meditators. I want to be free from suffering. You want to be free from suffering. How do I use that wanting? Well, if it's about me getting rid of my anger and becoming this loving bhikkhu and getting rid of that, that's very violent. Hating yourself is a very violent thing. Self-judgment and self-criticism is quite a violent thing, not overtly, but inwardly. So my sense of it is that first and foremost, you emphasize awareness rather than the objects of awareness. Now, when the objects of awareness arise and they are unpleasant, then also desire arises, right? It's unpleasant, it's painful. I need to move. So I have my knees are swollen. So I'm going to be back and forth dancing between these two platforms. But that's just the nature of old knees. I haven't got young knees. I have your knees probably don't hurt. Or do they hurt too? Oh, there you go. It's the nature of all knees. And that's just the way it is. So that desire to be free from suffering, that doesn't mean I just hurt myself, does it? So I have to understand what the Buddha means by suffering. He doesn't mean painful knees. Right? He doesn't say, okay, if you get enlightened, you will not have painful knees. Good luck. Right? Or you will not get arthritis or diabetes. No, I'm sorry, you're born in a body. What does he mean by suffering? And what he means is attachment. It's and that's the essence, ploi wang, of Buddhist practice. What is ploi wang? And again, my sense of it is if you emphasize awareness, you're actually emphasizing ploi wang. If you emphasize the object, then what happens? You have some situation which is unpleasant, not nice. You don't want it. You want to get rid of it. Is it necessary? Okay, it's necessary. I have to do something about it, and that's need. But how much of life is just a hassle? How much of our human communication is just miscommunication, right? Much of human life is unpleasant. I mean, I wish I didn't, not my fault. It's not your fault. It's just much of life is unpleasant, boring, repetitious. We get sickness. We also have beauty and excitement and so on. So if I can be with the unpleasant and not hurt myself, if I can be with the unpleasant, say, oh, unpleasant ben yang ni eng, then I'm not attaching to the desire. So let's say like yesterday, I gave an example. Let's say I said something to someone last week, which was cruel. I just lost the plot. You use that word, lost the plot in Thai? Lost the plot. Can you translate? Anyway, I lost mindfulness. Okay. And I yelled at a monk, you turkey, or something like that. Okay. I haven't done that for a while. I used to do that. And I yell at him and then I walk away from it. Oh gosh, Viradhammo, you're hopeless. 40 years as a monk, blah, 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 blah. That's not mindfulness. Certainly calling the monk a turkey, that's not mindfulness either. But okay, I lost mindfulness, right? That's the way it is. And there's the result. There's the result of regret and remorse. Now, what's really interesting is when you can only practice when you are awake. And sometimes we're not awake, right? We just lose it. We say stuff and do stuff out of heedlessness, but then we get the consequence. So I yell at the monk, and then I go back to my kuti. I'm trying to meditate, and I say, oh, Viradhammo, and it feels horrible. It's a horrible feeling. So what do I do with that? And what is that? How does that relate to akalika dhamma? Well, on one hand, my Vinaya says I should apologize. So I go and apologize the next day. But on the other hand, I still have the memory. You know, the memory is a given now. I can't get rid of that memory. And yet the memory is very unpleasant. I feel terrible for doing that. And I think all of us are, because we're good people. So then this is where it comes to akalika dhamma, where the practice of ploi wang is feeling the unpleasantness of the memory, but identifying it as a memory. So the memory comes up, and it comes up, and then I want to run with it. Oh, you shouldn't have done this, you should have done that. That's not mindfulness. Mindfulness is saying memory feels like this, and this is an unpleasant memory, and I'm just going to be with it. And that being with it is akalika dhamma. I'm with the feeling of pain right now for as long as it wants to last. And that's not desire. So in this little scenario, I'm now going against the force of desire, because my desire is to hate myself, or maybe to drink a large bottle of whiskey, or that wouldn't be nice, would it? Or to annihilate the mind, or to distract the mind with food or whatever. No, I'm just going to bear the vipaka kamma of wrong speech. And it's not pleasant, but I bear the vipaka kamma. And what am I doing? I'm doing two things. That's going to fix in my mind, be careful. Be careful, Viradhammo, because when you speak that way, this is the result. So it makes me more mindful in the future. Hating myself doesn't make me more mindful in the future, because it's more hatred. It doesn't work that way. So that's one thing that happens. I'm more mindful in the future. But the second thing happens, I've taken refuge in awareness. I've known this is a sankara, this is an object. It arises for causes, it stays for a while, and it ceases. So I've strengthened the doorway to the amata dhamma. I've strengthened the doorway to peace by being mindful of that which is not peaceful. The feeling is not peaceful, but actually the awareness is peaceful. Does that make sense? So I'm more and more, I'm with the objects of life, which are not, they're shaking and doing things, but I begin to see that awareness is always peaceful. Awareness has no quality. I mean, even to call it peaceful is kind of dualistic. But say, no, it's okay. It feels this way. And I get better and better and better at that until I say, yeah, I can be with the unpleasant, and it comes and it goes, and yet the awareness did not come and go. Consciousness was there, presence was there. And I identify or relate more to that which is peaceful rather than that which is changing. Does that make sense? Because that's very important to me, why I meditate the way I meditate, right? Very, very important. This is a long piece, but it's the first one. So one more thought then. A default mechanism. I don't know how you would translate in that in Thai, but like a default mechanism in consciousness would be that which your mind always turns to. Can anyone get a translation in Thai on that? Default. Like in engineering, a default mechanism where you could, okay, habit. So the habit of consciousness is usually thinking. Isn't it true that when you're not threatened by life, or when life isn't terribly interesting, your mind, your attention goes to thought, correct? So much of the time, the default space or the habit is blah, 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 blah. And much of that thought is blah, 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 blah. It's not important, but it is habitual. Now, a lot of Buddhist meditation is trying to help us with that habit of being preoccupied with thought through body awareness. So you find throughout any kind of Buddhist meditation, body awareness is very, very, very important. And that is very much the way to create a different kind of mechanism of awakeness in the present moment is through body awareness. So if you combine that awareness of the body as it is, and you do that a lot, and I mean a lot, right? This is not like 5 minutes a day. It has to be 24/7. If you do that a lot, then you start to see, even though my mind wants to go to some negative space or whatever, I say, yeah, but the body feels this way. and you begin to ground yourself in present moment awareness. If you don't do that, much of thinking is neutral. It's not good or bad. It's just habit. But if you don't do that, then if something negative happens, you get betrayed or you have a serious loss or whatever, then your mind goes crazy because that's the only thing it knows how to do, right? That's what it's been doing for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, right? Blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden, and that's how people go crazy. They just think too much, right? And we don't want to do that. Crazy is not a good idea. And yet we're all a bit crazy sometimes, aren't we? When we have something that just grabs our thinking and we run with the thinking, isn't that a form of ba? A form of crazy, because that the sati isn't strong. So if we train, when life is neutral, when life isn't pressured, when we have no great stresses, and we can just train in, like on a retreat, in body awareness, awareness of different senses, of color, then we're training the mind to be present so that when there are very serious things come up, we have a methodology, we have a practice, vipattibat, right? That doesn't have to go to thought. We can go to something else, the body. Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of ideas, but much of my practice is based around those kinds of ideas. So let's stretch our legs a bit, and then I'll give a guided meditation for like 10 minutes or something, and then we'll sit for the whole 45 minutes, and I'll kind of be moving back and forth. So stretch your legs a bit if you like. So the timer could set the time for 45 minutes. Okay. So I'll give some instruction, and then I'll just be quiet, and then we'll sit for the rest of the 45 minutes. Listen to sound. And in your listening, observe a receptive attitude where you let the sounds come to you. So you're not looking for a particular sound. You're not trying to hear what someone is saying, or you're just letting any sound come into consciousness. So this, I would say, is the way I talk about it. I say, let sound become conscious. And then you have the idea of puru, knowing. And the knowing, does it have, or awareness, does it have a boundary? Can you say the knowing is big or small? So perceive awareness as conscious space, shall we say, as a way of talking. And that the sound is in awareness, as a way of perceiving. And now feel your body. Feel the body sitting here. The sense object changes from sound to bodily, tactile sensation. Does awareness change? And then the perception, bodily feelings are in awareness. So that is the way I like to establish presence, awakened mind, puru, awareness. And then some body meditation. Bring your attention to your face. Bring your attention to your mouth. Feel the sensations inside the mouth. Feel the inside of the left cheek. Let these sensations come into consciousness. So you Some of these sensations are very strong, some are not there, and you are the silent witness. Sensations inside the right side of the mouth, the right cheek. The lower teeth and the upper teeth, sensations, feelings, the tongue, and the lips, and the whole mouth now. Feel the whole mouth as sensation, vibration. Let that be conscious. And notice the silence of awareness. So the mind kind of collects or composes on these body sensations. Feel the ears inside the ear canals. The outer structures of the ears. Feel both ears as sensation. Now we're not thinking about this. This isn't a thought. It's a direct physical experience. Both ears as sensation. And feel the nose, the bridge of the nose, and then the nostrils, and that whole area of the nose. Now, if you're looking for something, you might be squeezing your eyes. Rather not do that, just let the sensation be what it is and rest in that part of the body. And the eyes, feel the eyes, feel the bony structures, sockets of the eyes. Feel any tensions around the eyes. Let that be conscious. And then feel the eyes themselves. Feel the eyes kind of relaxing, dropping out in awareness. So the eyes are in awareness. Feel the temples, sides of the head, vibration, sensation. Feel the top of the head, the scalp. And the back of the head. Feel the back of the head. Go inside the skull, see if you can feel tensions in the brain. Now step back a bit. Notice the whole head now as sensation, not concept, as sensation, vibration, in awareness, head in awareness. And feel the neck, feel the throat, front of the neck, sides of the neck, and back of the neck. Sensations in awareness. Shoulders, feel the left side of the neck connected to the left shoulder. Let that become conscious. Down the left arm, the warmth of the arm against the body. down to the elbow, the lower arm, wrist, the left thumb, the left forefinger, the middle finger, the ring finger, and the small finger, the whole left hand, and the whole left arm to the shoulder. Feel that as one mass of sensations in awareness. So we keep collecting and composing the mind on these bodily sensations. The right side of the neck against the right shoulder. Let that be conscious. Down the right arm, upper arm. The right elbow. Forearm. Wrist. The right thumb. Forefinger. Middle finger. Right ring finger. And the small finger. Palm of the hand. The whole hand. And the whole arm all the way to the right shoulder. Feel both arms now as sensation in awareness. Body in awareness. Go to the throat. Go inside the throat, down to the chest. Feel the chest area. Feel the outer structures of the chest, clothing, warmth, pressure. Feel the rib cage, upper rib cage. The organs inside. Lungs, heart, and the upper spine as sensation. So you don't have to find these parts specifically. Whatever manifests, that's the sensation you notice. Feel the abdominal area. Feel the stomach, lower rib cage, feelings of the skin on your clothing, and then the organs inside, liver, whatever manifests. Feel the pelvic area, pelvic bones, weight of the body on the cushion, and then the organs in the pelvic area as sensation. And the hips, both hips, and both thighs, the lower legs and feet. So put all that together, feel both legs, pelvic area, abdominal area, chest area, arms, neck, and head. Now feel the whole body as sensation, not as concept. So this is before we think about the body, before you think about it. So body in awareness, bodily sensations in awareness. And then listen to sound. Notice the changing nature of sound in awareness. And then feel the body, changing nature of bodily sensations in awareness. So then be that awareness, knowing change. So I'll leave that as instruction. If you want to just sit and in that open awareness space, do so. If you get a bit confused, then just feel bodily sensations as breath. So feel an in-breath, an out-breath in awareness as a way of keeping centered and keeping track. So I'll be quiet now, but we'll sit through to the 45 minutes. So we changed posture. So for this sitting, I was doing for 45 minutes. Boring. But that's the way it is, right? So that's what I'm jet lagged or whatever, it doesn't matter. Okay. But you can be aware of that. So it's actually not a bad meditation. If you have some idea of fantastic samadhi, and then you find you're nodding, then quite often you try to get rid of the nodding, which is aversion, which is kilesa. So it's more, you always have to understand what's going on. And then what's nivarana in Thai, niwon? You have the word niwon or niwon, get the tones. Then you just have to work with that. So it's actually a good meditation because you've been mindful through the niwon. But I know when I was a young monk, I always tried to get rid of them. Fight the sleepiness or fight the restlessness, which wasn't really sati, it was macho. Young macho monk. But not successful and not happy. There's not a problem, it's just, okay, that's what you meditate with. And then again, body meditation is really very, very helpful because what's the body doing? It's collapsing. And if your only refuge or your only if a habit of mind or the default mechanism is always thought, then of course the thinking just makes you more sleepy. You get lost. You don't even know you're there. And then the bell rings. That was a good meditation. If you think you had a good meditation, but you weren't sure, you weren't there. So whether it's restlessness or whatever, you always begin with, it feels like this. And then you try to just continue to know whatever you feel like. So if I have half an hour of just the body wants to fall apart, fine. Lift the neck, simple. Lift the neck. It's not as much fun as watching Netflix, but it gives an interesting result because you start to understand the niwon, right, Tone? Yeah. And you have more confidence. So my body chemistry and my biorhythm or the daily rhythm of my body, always at this time I feel sleepy. I can have 100 cups of coffee and still the body just sort of, so that's just the way this body works. And I've learned that. So I always know, okay, it's going to be head. And then maybe restlessness or maybe some aversion or dosa. Whatever comes up, that's what you're developing mindfulness around. If you're trying to attain to some experience, you see, you get in trouble because I don't want this dosa. I don't want this aversion. I want peace. And then you have tanha and you try to get rid of it. So any condition points to awareness. All conditions point to awareness, pleasant or unpleasant. Aversion points to awareness. Love points to awareness. Now, obviously, the more love we can have, the easier it is to meditate because the Brahma Viharas are very satisfying. They're very fulfilling, so there's no desire in them. And that's why I think the Brahma Viharas are so very important. I mean, many reasons, because they're fun. They're nice states of mind, but they fulfill you. And the more we can bring those to consciousness, the less there's going to be desire because we are fulfilled. And then it's really, really interesting, the reflection on awareness. Does awareness change? Does awareness have a boundary? You get these interesting questions. There's no answer, but the question itself is the answer because your mind becomes very, very bright. Huh? So if we always keep to the same simple practice, awareness feels like this, then you'll start to understand what that means more profoundly. Changing postures then, usually we do sitting and walking, which is the kind of standard methodology for forest tradition. Walking meditation, I think the Mahasi tradition, you do the slow walking. I never learned that. I did. I was in Wat Mahatat for 2 weeks as a samanera. I ordained at Wat Mahatat, and they did the Mahasi tradition. But unfortunately, I didn't have a teacher. So I was in a foreign country and they say, okay, you walk slowly now for 24 hours or something like that. I almost went, bah, you gotta help this guy. So then I found Ajahn Chah, and then he of course introduced me to a lifestyle which I needed. I think, but then he suggested just walking normally. So that's what I've learned. Both are okay. Both are okay. See what the result is. So the way I've learned walking meditation is simply to, first of all, mark your path, and mark the beginning and ending of the path. And then that becomes kind of like your posture, that the container, A, B, B, A, B, B. So you're not going to get anywhere. And the end points of the walking path are the points of interrupting heedless thinking. Right? So because you get to, like if you put a tree there, if you're heedless, then you just run into the tree, that'll help. But as you get to the end of the path, you'll find you're thinking. It's a strong habit. And you're not trying to get rid of thought, because thought is natural, but you want to see thought as an object, and you want to see the mood behind thought. So if I'm worrying about my kids or my family or my health, or I'm reminiscing about something, oh, worry is like this. So this thought is a symptom of the mood or whatever. And then you keep interrupting the thinking process until more and more you see thought as an object that comes and goes, and the strength of awareness is stronger. So the ends of the path are very, very helpful. You walk and, oh yeah, I'm here now. So just keep establishing here now. And I think all of us as meditators, when we started, we thought we could not think. Huh? So then you start and you, okay, I'm not going to think. And it never works, because thought is natural. So you want to be able to see thought as an object rather than get rid of thinking. And if you're walking back and forth and you find your mind is just revving up all kinds of ideas or whatever, then just stop and listen. Come to awareness. Sound is like this. And that's not trying to get rid of thought. It's just changing the sense door. You go to another sense object. Thoughts like that. And then you walk. And it's really, like for many monks, the walking path is one of their best friends. And if you have a kuti, your monk, and you have your walking path, and you have your alms bowl, these are my kalyanamitta. Because on the walking path, I've worked out so much garbage from my mind and so many conflicts, but at times then nothing. I'm just very, very peaceful, at times churning up. But that's the friend that I can go to and I'm just going to walk with you. I'm going to be with you, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Then it becomes a place of contemplation, just like your cushion. Oh, there's my old friend, the cushion. And of course, for the monk, the alms bowl, very important. So if you try to pick a spot here where you're quite regular, right? We just go back to it. Sometimes you see people spend the first 5 days trying to find the right place to walk. Not worth it. And so I think one of the most disturbing things on a retreat is if you've developed a walking path for 5 days and day 6 someone is on your walking path, you want to murder them. It's a funny feeling, isn't it? That's my path. What are you doing on my path? But usually it doesn't happen. So if you just get some spot where it's good enough, it doesn't have to be perfect, and just use that. Just use that. So if there's cars coming and going and people coming and going, fine, you walk back and forth, walk back and forth. And then that really settles the mind. You've got this space, you've got your walking space, and just do it. Just keep doing it, doing it, doing it, doing it. And that really settles the mind. It really, really helps. Okay, I think that covers it. So, all right, see you at 2, correct? 2 o'clock.